king, a tidal wave. Essence perfect, life looks radiance. Give me more of this. I'm out of control, about to blow, and I've been caught in the undertow. So toxic, but I can't get enough. You're burying me, burying me. Yeah, you're burying me, burying me. You've got me hypnotized. Push me out of myself. You've got me hypnotized. Whoa. I can see, I can hear, going crazy for the luck. It's got me hypnotized. You've got me hypnotized. Get you out of my hand.
Hello, all you ghouls and goblins of the world, and welcome back to another Edge of the Knife edition, or chapter, as we say, of Killer Cuts, where we're going to be talking all about The Strangers, Chapter 1. I'm Bobby Munson, and beside me, as always, it's the natural Astrid Pizarro. Astrid, how are you doing today?
I'm recovering from this whole weekend. How are you?
I'm doing well. Back to work Monday for us here in Canada, so... You know, we're back at it. We had our long weekend last weekend. So, yes, your recovery is very much understood. And I know you had a very late night last night talking about AEW or Nothing here on the channel. Very successful stream that I saw that you had there with Kimmy Sokol. So, congratulations.
Yeah, pretty fun. Yeah, pretty fun. It's not often we can talk about AEW. So, when you have a holiday weekend, might as well do it since it's going to be past midnight when it ends.
Perfect. And just for everybody who's following us live, might be over on the X. If you want to get in on the conversation, make sure to hop on over to Twitch or YouTube where you can get in on the conversation with us. If you are watching on replay on YouTube, make sure to give us a subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know anytime we have new content here for you, as well as leave us a comment in the comment section. We're always checking those, and we will get back to you. We love to keep the conversation going. And that conversation leads us to another slasher flick. In fact,
Yes.
what do we call this? Is this a remake, a prequel, or what has this been officially classified as with The Strangers Chapter 1?
You know, I was debating the same thing after it ended because my brother was wondering, is this a reboot because it's too much like the original? But it's not necessarily a reboot because, or it's just hard to explain it because of the technology. It's not the same as it was for the original. So it's hard to say it's like a reboot of it. But it also is not a sequel. So I don't know how they will describe it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's I've kind of contemplated the same thing too, and the technology is what threw me because it comes across like this might take place in the same universe, but prior to. But are they going to go the direction of leading us towards the end of this trilogy to believe that that's when we will see, when we would see the installment that we saw originally from back, I believe it was 2008 when the original first came out in theaters. Now this one, I mean, I know a lot of people have been really, really digging deep on this one, saying this is terrible. Don't go see it. Don't waste your time. As slasher film fans, we are kind of used to this backlash from the critics and from people out there in the world. It's not the 18 or 19 Rotten Tomatoes percentage bad that you're seeing out there from the overall critics. It is a slasher film, popcorn flick. It doesn't have a ton of substance or anything really overly new, maybe a couple things, but if you want just to have a turn off the brain slasher flick, then it's there. It exists. It's not going to be the best horror movie of the year. But Astrid, your initial thoughts before we get into the finite details of The Strangers Chapter 1.
I mean, I could see where people are coming from in that aspect of, even my brother said it's like if it's just almost like a carbon copy of the original, but I even pointed out to him after the movie ended, based on what I remember from the original, it does have a little bit of differences because in the first one, the couple, they're, I kind of want to say in the rocks, kind of, if you think about it that way. So in this one, the couple is not the same. I feel like they really help and support each other through this whole ordeal of a night. So you can see you can see it happening throughout the movie, and we'll talk about it more in detail when we get to the spoiler section. But they're like a happy couple. They're celebrating the anniversary as we hear in the trailer, but they're in a good kind of space in a good moment in the relationship. It's things happen here and there, but then they're not exactly the same as the original couple, to put it like that. So to me, that already takes it out. It's not exactly a carbon copy. And another thing to me is that the main character, see if I can remember her name here, Maya, who's Madeline from Riverdale. That's how I know her from, at least. I will say Riverdale all the time. She acted a little bit different in this aspect because she's an engineer, if I'm not mistaken. So there's moments that you could tell she put that cap on while she's in the movie, and we didn't get to see that with the original couple either. And there's some other aspects that I will talk about a little bit later when we get to spoiler section. I don't want to get too much into it yet, but it doesn't feel exactly like a carbon copy of it. I get why people are saying it, but it's not exactly it. I would say, like, if I could put a percentage, I would say like maybe 80%, close to 90, but it's not exactly a carbon copy. There's some things here and there that are different, and obviously this is the first part out of three. So to me, we just have to give it time. This is just the beginning, so it could be exactly almost the same, but not entirely. But the other two parts are going to be different because obviously it's not going to be like the first movie. We only got one.
Now, my argument to people who keep making the claim of it's exactly the same is, what did you expect? What were you thinking was going to change the game about a movie based around people who terrorize someone who happens to be at a home or a cabin or whatever it might be? Also the same deal. Like, a lot of people like take the reference to this one not being as frightening as the original. Sure. I'll agree with them on that. I did not find this one nearly as terrifying, but I can also pick apart why. The original one becomes so terrifying because of the fact that we had not seen these characters. We don't know the motive. We still don't really necessarily know the motivation of these characters, but we know what they do, how they act, and what to expect from them. And when you see some of those similar tropes that we've done in other movies, the fear level starts to not kind of hold up. It's kind of like when you watch Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th or Halloween. After a while, you're watching for the investment into the franchise as opposed to an investment into something that's still going to scare you after all of these years. And anybody who watches slasher films or horror movies like that, you just got to be prepared for that. Yeah, I don't think that it was as scary, but I also think that people need to take a step back and say, okay, probably should have seen that.
Yeah, I would say compared also to the original, it was scary. There was in this one there was only one jump scare that really got me, only one of them, because I
Which
was
one?
not expecting. I know it was towards the beginning, but I remember the scene exactly. But it's just one of those moments that you don't think they're there, and then they are, and then they go that back and forth on you. And it's the only part that actually got me at the beginning, and I jumped when it happens. And I don't remember if it happened to me with the first one, but I remember with the first one, I was like in the edge of my seat because I knew the people were gonna be in the house already as they were based on the trailer. So it's like I was kind of expecting it, but even this one, there was moments that like we had a back and forth here, and it made me like, is it gonna happen now? Maybe now or later? And um, just when I thought I was off the hook, it just happened. So it only got me once at least.
For sure. Ed's joining us in the chat. Ed, I know we aren't strangers, but the masked people in the movie are, so we're just going that direction anyway. Speaking of the masks, relatively same, not a whole lot of difference there. They kind of kept that same sort of feel to it and everything. The acting in this movie was all right. It wasn't mind-blowingly good, but it wasn't atrocious either. So I've seen worse. I've seen a lot worse in slasher films, so that's not too bad. I'd say it's definitely a passable movie. I'm going to get into more of the fine details here as we get to our spoiler section, which is coming up right away. So, word of warning, everybody: if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want it to be spoiled, you want to tune out right around now, because I think now is the time that we make that switch and start talking about the full details of the movie. So the basis of this one setup is that this couple is traveling to do their own little kind of holiday. They chose not to go to a holiday in Greece that's mentioned, I think, a few times throughout this film, where all of their friends happen to be. They end up stopping in a small little town along the way to get gasoline. They go into the local place. They come back out, and their vehicle doesn't work. Go figure. Horror movie, small town, vehicle doesn't work when you turn away from it for just that one quick moment. Right away, the one thing I did like is that the main guy in this one was suspicious initially. The fact that he didn't continue his suspicion and he made some really stupid mistakes following kind of bothered me. And we'll talk about that momentarily. But his initial, like, no, this is stupid. We turn our back for a second, and now the mechanic's telling us our car doesn't work, and you conveniently have a shop right here to work. I was like, yes, buddy. Yes. Call these assholes out because they're probably behind it. But as they're sitting there in the diner and all this kind of stuff, I'm like, there's something about this whole town. Something about this doesn't scream three strangers. This seems like three strangers plus a whole backing cast here behind them that sets this all up for every time that is. The beginning of the movie, we see somebody else entirely get attacked by the strangers in the forest. He is murdered. They notice that his picture is up as a missing person in the diner. They mention it, and the all too creepy waitress that happens to be working there at the diner goes, yeah, he was in here and had the same meal as you a few days ago, and he's been missing ever since. As these weird cops kind of look over and glare, and I'm like, come on, buddy, keep your suspicions up. This is starting to sound bad. Maybe you should get out of town now. Even if you have to walk, just get as far away as possible. But that wouldn't make for much of a movie. And then from there, they are told that they're going to not be able to have the vehicle fixed at least until the next afternoon because a part needed to be ordered. Go figure. And so they were going to have to stay somewhere, but the local hotel was down for service. So they had to rent a convenient Airbnb that happens to be in the middle of the woods near this town and happens to be available too, because, Airbnbs just are always available at a whim like this. So the setup happens from there. That is the start of the setup. Anything that I missed there that you wanted to touch on?
Not missed. I was like you. I kept thinking, I was like, dude, you had the right suspicion. Just turn around and go home. And I just wish I could say that. Reminds me of Scream when it's like, behind you, Jamie, behind you. I'm like, yeah, turn around. Don't do it. It's just that part. This is the first part within not only the people at the diner, but the cops and the mechanics. Like you mentioned, I just went back to thinking. Compared to the original, I wondered the town is part of the plan of this happening, because that's something that we didn't get in the original. In the original, they just go to this house that they have rented for the weekend. It's not like an Airbnb. They don't meet anybody on the way or anything like that. They just go directly to the house, and they're obviously arguing as they're in the house through this whole like what they're supposed to be their weekend here. But here we do meet people in between from their road trip up until them being in that Airbnb. And especially one of the young ladies in the diner also driving them there and offering them a house and offering them the ride as if you have to be there. Like, you're the next target. Like, we had to take you to the place for this, this whole plan to move forward. So it just made me think of, I guess, the town part of the plan, because they all seem very suspicious so far. And it's like the mechanics would have been part of it, obviously breaking down the car. So they stay there for the weekend, to put it like that, until everything gets fixed. People at the diner kind of give them the stares, and the kids being creepy, and the cops also being creepy. And they also have at one point when the husband goes to get his inhaler from the car, and he goes back in the motorcycle, and on his way back he's getting food for them. Also the people wanting to like keep him there because they're like, hey, have a meal with us, have a beer with us. He's like, oh no, I have to get back. So it's like, why do you want to keep him there with you when he's by himself, and his wife was with him earlier and it's not with him right now? So that part also raised me that flag of like, I feel like the town is definitely part of it in some aspect, way, shape, or form in there too. And based on what they mentioned about the guy being missing too, is like, oh yeah, he was here for like a business thing, and he stopped by too. He had the same meal you did, and then now he can't be found. So it's like so many like things contributing to that is something we didn't have in the original. So that's another one of the things I wanted to mention earlier, that this is different from the original there.
Yeah. Now to go back to that old motorcycle thing. So this is what really, really bugs me is, first of all, there just happens to be this available dirt bike, aka motorcycle, that happens to be at this place. This guy happens to know how to drive it. And His reasoning, he's going to go into town for food to get his inhaler, all this kind of stuff. Why didn't his wife go with him? It was just 10 minutes before this decision was made that they got a knock at the door and some creepy little bastard was asking for Tamara. Is Tamara home? You never say no to Tamara being home. Tamara is always home, people. Always home. Otherwise, you're doomed. So after this creepy event happens, he decides that he's going to go by himself on this dirt bike to town to get food and an inhaler while leaving his wife in the creepy, spooky woods at this creepy, spooky cabin all by her lonesome. During said time, the same person comes back once again asking for Tamara. And then when he finally returns and she tells him this, he shrugs it off like it's nothing. Oh, it's no big deal. Don't worry about it. We got this. There's nobody here. Kind of thing. And I'm looking at this thinking, who could these people be based on what we've seen in the film so far? Like, I wonder about the strangers, the guy. I mean, there's a multitude of guys that could be. I wonder if it's not one of the cops because the mechanic happened to still be at town when he went into town to go get the stuff. So I don't necessarily suspect the mechanic, but there was two at the mechanic shop. So it could be one of them. It could be one of the cops. I want to say that Dollface, the character Dollface, is possibly the one that drove them to the cabin, maybe. And that Pinup Girl. Pinup Girl is likely that one. Dollface, I wonder if it isn't one of those two weird looking children. Like, I'd say, like, what are they, 12-ish, 10 to 12-ish? But that one boy was tall enough to maybe fit that part and the right body type and doesn't say a damn word. So as to mask his voice, all this kind of stuff, it is an interesting setup in terms of the whodunit factor that they're probably going to carry on along chapters 2 and 3 for us. Also, the other part that annoys me about this is when they are finally in danger, they are being chased down in this cabin and they go into the crawl space. I'm like, awesome, there's a crawl space. I'm like, even if they get under the crawl space, it is going to be extremely difficult for them to get to you unless they start taking an axe to the floorboards or something along those lines. Maybe just see it out for a little bit under the crawl space. No, they decide they're going to hightail it out of the crawl space, and instead of just running away as far as possible and being safe, they decide, let's go over to that little shack over up to the side and go in there and try to find a weapon. Wonderful. Yes, let's go to another confined space where these people can lock us into it and put us in direct danger. That really frustrated me, just the silly mistakes that the leads kept making in order to carry the picture along. Aside from that, it wasn't too bad. Like the whole scene with her getting the nail through the hand under the crawl space, that was good. That was a good shot too, because as soon as you pressed it in, I'm like, the part that bugs me the most is I stepped on a nail when I was younger, so I know exactly what it feels like to get a nail like that through you. And there's no way I'd be screaming at the top of my lungs if that happened. So, but at the same time, I wasn't being chased down by anybody. I don't know if I'd be able to maybe hold it in
I
for
hope
that
not.
reason. But, yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's, aside from those nitpicky little things up until that point, other than that, I was still very invested in who is behind this and what are we going to learn from this chapter in particular. Before we go into kind of the ending scenes and stuff like that, though, I want to get your thoughts up to this point or anything that we haven't touched on yet.
This is another the part that I was mentioning earlier, that their relationship here within this couple is different from the original as well. Because in the original, like I said, they're more on the rocks and they're arguing quite often because of what's happened. Because I believe he asked her to marry him and she said no. So that started making everything really uncomfortable for them. They do have a similar kind of feel in that aspect of he thought she didn't want to get married. So he asked a little bit later to get married. So they don't necessarily argue about it. They just have like a simple conversation, which I like about this aspect of, no, I wanted it, but I didn't think you wanted it. So they have that moment there. And first, I like the moment that she puts that engineering cap on, because I would have never thought about that crawling space. in there, and I'm glad she thought about that too for both of them. I'm glad they were able to make it all the way through. I was just hoping they would be there a little bit longer. And like you said, the part of the nail, it's one of my favorite parts because first, the way she's so quiet about it and tries to be the quietest as she can this whole moment to try to save herself and him as well. In the moment he's trying to help her out, he's like trying to cover her mouth and he's like trying to stop the bleeding, anything to help her out. And I like how they team up in here so very well in this part just to try to save themselves. And it's like we don't get to see that with the other couple too. And I like how they were able to team up better in this one. And you can see how even with everything they trust each other so well that they're like, you take one side, I'll take the other one, kind of thing. And they always team up within throughout the whole movie, and I really like seeing that within their relationship. So it was very nice to see something different in the relationship here in that aspect compared to how it was before. And I feel like they obviously it's a movie and it's the first part out of three, so obviously they had the moments of like, I don't want to say being dummies, but they're being dummies. But we also have moments of like you can see how they're working it out because like you said, when she's by herself in the house, you can see she's washing her hair, so you can see there's somebody in the back looking at her. But she also has a moment where she does see, I think it's Pin Up Girl, if I'm not mistaken, or is it not Dollface, she sees first. And he's like, oh, I think I know what happened. And he starts moving. He starts noticing that there's a painting that looks like a clown. So it's like, oh, maybe it was that you were looking at. So I like how even at that moment, he's trying to calm her down and try to make her like go back to like that scene and make it really calm. And I like how that's what I mean out about the aspect of the relationship that I really like between both of them. They were able to help each other throughout this whole thing. And even then he's like, no, here, I got food, let's relax. It's a whole weekend, let's go back to the mindset that we had coming into this weekend. And I do like that part of it, that even though he kind of gaslight her in that way, but he doesn't know any better at that moment because obviously he doesn't know what's happening here. But I like how they're able to team up with each other more here before everything starts really picking up from for the end.
Yeah, and I believe what they were trying to accomplish too, I will say, is that as humans, it's easy for us to sit there and watch a movie and go, why would you do this? Why would you do that? But put us in that situation, would we think logically? Or would we end up doing silly mistakes like the characters in this film do too? So we could sit there and pick it apart about how silly it was, but not every person is going to handle situations like this quite the same. One interesting part to came shortly after. So they had earlier had called about the broken refrigerator and wanted this taken care of. They're paying for an Airbnb, so let's get someone out here for emergency services for the one night that we're doing this for. And as soon as they had a hold of the shotgun and they heard somebody at the door and they were around the side, I'm like, huh. I was like, the refrigeration repair guy is about to have his head shot off. I was like, guaranteed this is going to be the major kill of the movie. Is going to be the poor innocent refrigeration guy who's going to get blown apart here. And so he kind of turns around the corner, shoots first, asks questions later to find out you've killed an innocent man or supposedly killed an innocent man. We don't know for sure because we don't know who owns this place. We don't have any way of knowing because they didn't communicate back. They never received back a call that we know of saying, sorry about that, a refrigeration guy is going to be on his way here tonight to take care of that for you guys or anything. So none of that happens to have them at least understand that somebody's going to be on their way. What this then sets up is the scene with the vehicle. So, and this was a cool scene. First of all, the vehicle's there. They realize there's an opportunity to take this refrigeration repair guy's vehicle, hop in it, and try to get away. They hop in it. They see, I believe it's both Pinup Girl and Dollface. And as they try to get away, they spin a 360, and all of a sudden, Sackface has got a truck, and he drives that truck straight into them, compressing their vehicle into the side of a tree and making it damn near impossible for the guy to get out of the vehicle because his leg was pinned inside. So she gets out and she starts to make a run for it. He gets trapped there. It takes him a little longer to get free. This is inevitably what sets up the both of them getting caught by the strangers themselves. And the infamous scene that we're all familiar with that happened in the original, that's happened in this one, where they're tied up to the chairs, the three strangers standing in front of them, and the all-important question, why are you doing this to us? To which they get told, because you were here. And that's all we really get in that sense. At this point in time, both of our leads are very, very much injured. In fact, to the point of we don't know if the main guy, is he still alive? I
Mhm.
presumably, I know he's been confirmed for the other two movies, but it makes me wonder, like, is he confirmed in terms of scenes that we'll see him in when we're thinking about the past? Is he actually legitimately still alive? I don't really know. In this
Mhm.
scene, he does ask, it does a marriage proposal because he thinks that is it for him. He might as well get his marriage proposal in before he bites the dust. And yes, and from there things change a little bit. So up to this point, and I'll let you do the talking about the ending and the end credit scene as well too. I want to
Mhm.
hear your thoughts on that.
Well, for this part with the car reminded me a little bit of the second one though with the family because it's something similar. I believe the dad is the one that gets stuck in there and he dies there, so
Yeah.
it's very similar in the aspect to that one. So it reminded me of that part. I did like the part of what them did the car because I was like, oh, I like their quick thinking in this aspect when they find the keys from the guy. Here, let's go get out of here. But I also like the quick thinking from the strangers coming in and just like having intercepted that so very fast. Like they kind of felt like they were like two steps ahead of them in that aspect too. And it's just like how is it that they're doing this? It's just one of those things that it's just crazy to think about. But yeah, the way when they finally catch him, I got frustrated before they catch him because he has I think it's doll face at that point with the gun. It's like it's so close to. It's like you took a little bit too long. I was like, dude, I would have just shot her. It was like even if she hadn't done anything to you, she probably did something to other people in the past, and you're getting justice for all of them. So
Or
why
even
would you
just a
think about
blunt,
it?
like,
Yeah, and I
yeah.
was like, and then not only that, you would have made it a little bit more even because at least it would be 2 on 2 if you were to like kill her or even hit her. So it's like, why would you wait that long? It's like, why would you hesitate? It just like, think about this: for they're the bad guys. Why would you like hesitate on it? I wouldn't hesitate if somebody came in to like where I'm at and do something to them. But that part is the one that frustrated me because I was like, come on, dude, hit her, please hit her, and then it wouldn't happen. I'm like, you could at least done that, but that's the only part I was frustrated with him. I do like the acting in this like closing scene in the house when they're tied up. I feel like they did very well showing us the emotions of they feel like that this is their final moment together as a couple, but obviously on Earth as well. So I like the way they're acting here because you can see that like they're holding on to each other's hands. Like this is our last moment together. Let's share it together as much as we can. So I like seeing that within both of the characters here, especially for Madeline. She's so very emotional. You can definitely see it in her facial expressions. So very well done there when they stab him and he's able to do that proposal. And I was like, oh, this is so sweet. But I was like, damn it, why? When then obviously they kick him out, he falls and he looks like he's dead, but we're not entirely sure, like you said. And then when it happens to her, and I was thinking in that moment, I kept up with my brother and I go, there's three parts, and she's actually confirmed so far, confirmed for all the
Mhm.
three parts. So it's like I don't think she's gonna get killed. So we had that moment. She gets stabbed. We obviously, like you said, they get the answer cycles because you were here, and they stab her. Not in the same way they stabbed him, and then she falls. But before this, while she was getting chased down in the woods, she was able to take the flip phone that the guy from the fridge had, and then call 911. And even though she didn't have a lot of signal, it looks like based on her description, because she called it like Airbnb, that's how they were able to find them. So as we are getting the closing scene of her on the floor, you can see both of the chairs on the floor. They're having that moment. You can see the blood coming out from both of them, and the strangers hear the sirens. They leave from one street as the ambulance is going the other way, so they don't get caught or anything like that. And we don't get to see Madeline leaving. We just see like the way it seems like the ambulance got there on time. And I didn't even realize that they could have had after credit scene. I didn't even look it up. And then as it was ending, my brother went, hold on, let me look it up. And I'm glad they didn't wait too long before the scene actually popped up. I was like, thank you, because I don't like waiting that long. That's the only thing I don't like about Marvel. I don't like waiting to the end. But it's nice to see that part of like get them giving us that glimpse because from what I remember, if I remember correctly in her interviews, Madeline did say they filmed everything. They're just obviously gonna get separated into the three chapters here. So I was like, this is obviously gonna keep going exactly from that same night. There's no gaps in between everything. So it's nice to see that getting confirmed with the after credit scene. She's in the hospital and you can see, oh, she's alive. We don't know about him because they haven't shown us him, so that's still a question mark for all of us. It's very interesting going into the movie. And the stranger is one of them. It's just exactly sitting down next to her is like, so I wonder how far this hospital is from their house that they were able to like think, oh, this is the one they sent her to, let's go after her and kill her anyway. And then I remember my brother being, But this is crappy though, because now I know she's gonna survive the second one and going to the third one. I was like, still, it's like it's something like she said it from the get go. This is a long chapter, and it's all divided into 3 chapters, and I like seeing that. Either way, he's like, so I gotta like kind of go and power myself through the second one to get into this third one, which is probably gonna be the best one. It's like, yeah, but at least we get the best thing for the end though. And again, I love this hospital scene. I feel like it's very well done. I think it's the first time we actually see them like outside of like their like comfort zone, to put it like that. Because in the second one we do see them in that town and they know the town, so like you can see that there's their confinement, to put it like that. In the first one we see them mostly in the house, so this is the first time we actually see them like outside of that house like that. So I think it's very interesting to see how they deal with all the people that are going to be in the hospital, because even though she's by herself, it's a hospital, it's always going to be busy somehow. So I want to see how that plays out into it, and if she's able to know anything about her once her fiance at this point, and if he's alive or not. So, and do we get more of a backstory with them moving forward of like why they're doing this and how they're doing all of it? And does it sound really involved? So I want to know the details, and I feel like part two is definitely going to give us all those like gaps that we still have after part one ended. And again, I do find the ending and the after credits scene very interesting. So I really enjoyed how it all wrapped up so far.
Yeah, I've been giving a lot of thought to it. I know that you mentioned that your brother mentioned about two being a bit of a who cares almost moment, because like she is confirmed for three, so she doesn't live. But I like what you're saying here too, because that's what got me thinking. I'm like, is two going to involve more answers to our questions? Are we going to get more of that? And as we progress past that, will we get chapter three being the all out, like, now we have some answers. Now it's time for that final confrontation and going after them. And then the stakes are even higher. Does she make it past the third movie, or does she die? Do any of the strangers get killed along this path? If there's still the stakes of any one of the strangers could die, but then we could start to find out that it doesn't matter who's behind the masks. The masks are worn by whoever in the town is doing what they're doing. So there is a lot of things that can unfold within that second chapter. And I think it's beneficial to us as fans who want to know, that are going to invest our time in knowing, despite what's been said, despite that it's maybe not an A+ movie, but I need to know, and I'm sure you do too. So I want those chapters, and I have a bad feeling that had this come out and they hadn't filmed chapter 2 and chapter 3, we might not necessarily get chapter 2 and chapter 3, because the company might have put a hold on it. This is the best thing for us. They've been filmed. They're done. They just need to touch them up, whatever they're doing to finish them. They're going to happen one way or another. So either way, we will find out those answers and get those new chapters in there. And I hope that they do so much better as they progress, that buzz starts to go back and the movies continue to make some money, because I don't want to see slasher films get a bad rap and have people not going to see them in the theater. I want lots of slasher movies. I know that we got a lot coming out next year already. There's some great big names for next year. So we need that slasher genre to continue its momentum that it's been on at the moment going into next year. As for grading this movie as a whole, I'm going to say I'd probably give it a mid-grade somewhere. Like, I'm going to say like a C+ to a B-. I think B- is almost being a little bit fair, but I'll go with B- just to be a nice guy today. How much stuff?
Yeah, I would say a B- too, because I just like there's some parts that are kind of frustrating, but overall, like the actors, I feel like they did really well with it. Like you said, we still have those moments like two could answer so many questions, and the three could be just the final wrap up of everything. And I feel like they could be pacing them really well, because we're gonna get chapter 2 somewhere sometime in the fall, probably close to like September, October, most likely. And then the third one will be next June. I feel like depending how the second one ends is gonna get the intrigue for us to watch the third one. And from what I've seen so far, even for this one, just thinking about the marketing aspect, because they have put the strangers in different parts of the US and different events. So like you see them there just in New York, just standing all three of them together, being creepy like that. And I feel like that brings some something different to the table from what we see from like, most movies. That did the same thing with Smile for their marketing, just having people just like obviously with the creepy smiles at different events, and it's one of those things like you don't expect to see that when you're going anywhere, but it gives you that intrigue of like, hey, the Strangers Chapter 1 is out, and I hope even if we don't get them at the movie theater because the first one doesn't do well, if somebody will pick them up and put them on a streaming service, I feel like you said it, we do have that advantage in that aspect that they all have been filmed. It's just a matter of how they break it down. But hopefully we do get them in the movie theater and we get that going from there. And like you said, we have so much happening. We have Megan coming out next year. We have Scream coming out next year. I think Black Phone's also coming out. So
I know
we
what
do
you
have
did
a
last
lot.
summer.
So much going on next year, so I can't even begin to imagine how this is gonna go. But it's nice to get a movie kind of early on before really all the horror movies start coming out. And I feel like that this is gonna motivate other people to go watch the second one, especially when it's around that time for Halloween.
I have this theory that if Netflix can continue to give money to Zack Snyder to keep making his crappy sci-fi films that he keeps pumping out, then there's no reason why someone can't at least give a little bit of money to put Strangers on streaming if it doesn't go to theaters. Come on. I don't know if anybody's seen the latest Zack Snyder films, but oh my goodness, somebody needs to tell this guy to stop making movies for a little while because he has not made a good one in a long ass time. And I'm a lot less forgiving when people put big budgets into movies. Horror films, especially slashers, not high budget films. This is the kind of movies that really drive the industry to do better. It's because we can put low budget into a horror film and horror fans flock to the theaters or to streaming or to whatever, pump the money into it, and that money a lot of the times is actually used in order to give the money to your big budget films. I'm looking over at you, Marvel guys, Ed in your Marvel stuff. Marvel exists because of our horror movies doing so well all the time. I'm telling you that much. But yeah, no, I want this to be successful. I want it to do well. I know that it's gotten the bad rap with the reviews and stuff like that, but I think we're both on the same page. B-. It's not perfect, but it's not the worst. I've seen worse slasher films, so bring it on. Give me chapter 2. Give me chapter 3. I'm ready for them. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
No, I feel like if you haven't seen it, I would definitely try to give it a chance. At least go with an open mind. That, like we said, there's 3 chapters to it. This is just the beginning of it. So hopefully, anything else that you think it's like lacking, it will kind of fix itself. Let's say moving forward. So definitely give it a chance and see how you feel about it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Astrid, why don't you let the wonderful people know where they can find you coming up?
I keep forgetting what day it is today.
It's Monday. It's Monday.
It's Monday. It doesn't feel like Monday. You can find me tomorrow doing Taking Over with Ed as we discuss NXT. We're on the way here for Battleground coming up soon, so really excited for that end of it. Um, Aside from that, you can find everything else on my YouTube channel, which is like my name, Astrid Pizarro. You can find my predictions for King and Queen of the Ring, for Double or Nothing post show that I did with Kimmy last night as well. And hopefully I'll try to plan out more things to put on my YouTube channel throughout the week as well. Aside from that, you can find me on Twitter, Blue Skies, Astrid Pizarro, Instagram and Threads, Astrid Pizarro 20.
Wonderful, wonderful. And for myself, I'm Bobby Munson. Over on the X, Real Bobby Munson, Instagram and Threads, it's at Video Bros SK. My personal Twitch is VideoBro_Bobby Munson. Where you can find me during the week is Thursday nights with Papa Smokes doing Ring Respect Radio, where we talk about independent wrestling, history, professional wrestling, things like that. We have interactive games for you as well. Then you're going to be able to find me every Saturday at the Prairie Pro Wrestling channel, where I do commentary with Papa Smokes. And, of course, Sunday right here on this channel for Point of View, where we do everything from gaming to watch-alongs. This Sunday, I believe I'm going to be joined by Andre C. We're starting at a later time, 1 p.m. Eastern time, and we're going to be watching MLW's Battle Riot 6. So that is available free on their channel through YouTube, so everybody can watch along with us. Join us Sunday for that one as well. Outside of that, many different little videos here and there throughout the channel. My other movie reviews, my music reactions. My music reaction that got attention from one of the bands today, Nothing More, thanking me and subscribing to OLE. So if a band like Nothing More can subscribe to OLE, list people, that ticker right down below is all you need to do is head on over there, like, follow, subscribe, all those wonderful things, thumbs up, click the notification bell, and leave a comment. We love the comments. We love chatting to you. And we love all the support that each of you give to us. From myself, from Astrid, we appreciate you coming out for another chapter of Killer Cuts, and we'll see you very soon. Take care, everybody.